For today, what we'll do is we'll take up few examples on LODs. So this material is from the Tableau conference material. Some exercises here and there. So we'll go through these exercises and try and solve this. Okay, so let me pull up one more screen. Just a minute. Okay, so basically, let me explain the question here. We have sales. This is again, we are working on sample support store data, and we need to show basically, so we have different states here and cities inside each of these states. Now we know that different cities have different sales in each of these states. So we need to show only what is the city that is having maximum sales in that particular state. For example, this is a state of California, and in this California state, we only have a city called Los Angeles that's having the maximum sales. So we need to display that particular name across all the states, which is having the maximum sales across all the cities in that particular state. Let's see how we can do that. Okay. First of all, we'll create our map. So let me find my state. Got my map. Let me just color it by sales. Okay. Now I want to display the maximum sales city as a label. So first I need to create a calculation to get that. Simple is basic understanding from logic point of view. If we see, we just have to get the for each state. So we need to perform our calculation at a state level. So we need, straight away we'll go for fixed state. Give me maximum city sales. Okay. Fixed state city. So we need to check at the city level. So we need to get the sum of sales first at this level. City level sales. Why I'm giving state and city? Because if there are same name of cities in multiple states, it will not club those two things. So therefore we'll give state and city. I'll click OK, and I'll create another calculation on the top of that earlier calculation. So I need to get maximum state, right? The maximum city sales. Yeah. So maximum city sales. Now I need to perform this calculation at the state level. For every state, I need one city. So therefore, fixed state, give me a maximum of my earlier calculation, which is city level sales. So this will give me the sales value for the city, which has maximum sales in every state. Maximum. Once I created this, now I'll use these two this particular calculation to get me the name of the city. So it's just another basically if you see what, let me explain that later. We'll just use a simple condition if city level sales, okay, is equal to my maximum city sales, then give me city, and so it will only check for where the sales are maximum for in each state, for which city, and it will give me only that name. So this will hold the values for of the values labels that we intend to have. So I'll just put this in label, and I got my Los Angeles. So likewise for every state. So one thing to understand here is, so this concept brings in something called nested LODs. Just like how we have nested table calculation, here if you remember, the first calculation that we created is itself an LOD at the state and city level, and on the top of this LOD we are developing another LOD, this is the second LOD. So this is the itself is an LOD calculation. Therefore, the secondary calculation becomes a nested LOD calculation. I hope this is clear. Stop me whenever something you have a question or something. We'll move on to the next question. And trying to open up the question. Yes. So this is the question for a second exercise. So for every segment we have consumer segment. What is the average number of days between the customer's first and second order dates? This is pretty simple in terms of getting the first order date, but let's see how we can get the second order date. And once we get both the order dates, it's pretty straightforward. So first of all, first order date. All you have to do is at a customer level, fix a customer ID, give me the minimum of order date, that will give me the first order date of that particular customer. Okay. Now I have first order date. I'll create a second order. How do I get to the second order date? Any logic?
Maybe just we can write a calculation field saying like at customer ID level, if order date greater than the first order date, then take the minimum of the greater one. Will it work?
Yeah, that will work. So basically what we are trying to do here is, we already got the minimum as first order date. Now filter out all the order dates for each customer which are greater than the first order date for that particular customer. Now once that is, so we are basically removing the minimum order date and again taking the minimum from the rest of the order dates. So that will give us the second order date. So fixed customer ID. Take a minimum of, look into this inside field. What is this? If order date is greater than my first order date. Then order date. So if you see this inside condition that I have, it will check and it will only give the dates basically that are greater than my first order date. So obviously the order date, the minimum order date will be removed, and on that, once that is removed, I'm taking the minimum from that particular set of order dates. second order. So once I have second and first order date, it's just a matter of taking the difference. We have a function called diff, which gives me difference in days. So first order date comma second order date, click OK, and I'll go for my segment. I need to basically get the average. Yeah, so this is the let's see the values.
Maybe Jagdish, like you can select those bars and right click mark label always show. It will show, I guess. Mark label always show. And same for.
So it's basically that's how we get the average. So second order here the catch is basically one is how to get the second order logic, and the second thing is here we invoke something called, earlier we invoked something called nested LOD. Here we invoke something called conditioned LOD. So LODs with some conditions. So we can manipulate LODs by whatever the conditions that you would like to take into account. So let's move on to the second question.
Just one point. I think you can probably do this in another way as well. Just a suggestion. So you might be familiar with this concept of lead and lag variables, right? So for example, one thing that we can do is we already have a column for the order date, right? If we create a new column for the lead variable of the order date, so then basically what will happen is the second order date will be in the first row, like that, assuming that each row corresponds to a particular order, and then minimum of the order date column will for each customer will be the first order date. Minimum of the lead variable of the order date column will be the second order date for each customer. Then we can take the difference between these two values, and I think that will be the same.
Yeah, that's also possible. So as I said earlier also, like in Tableau we can get the same task done by multiple ways. Right. Currently since we are working on LODs, I'm just trying to
got it.
Yeah, but what you said is right. Yeah, it's going to be doable. Okay. And the next session, in the next exercise, we have something like this here, and let me explain what we have. I have a simple state level map colored using sales on the top, and I have a trend of the sales over time on the below. Now if I select particular state, I have an action that says, okay, let me select California. I have an action that gives me sales for that particular state or only for that particular state. Now I select second state, it will give me the second state which I selected as another line, and likewise third state another line, fourth state another line. I have 4 lines here. Now it may happen that after some point these lines may just become basically messy, and we may not make out the information from what it's displayed. So as soon as I select a number of states greater than a certain threshold, see what happens. So I've selected 5th state, and my line graph defaulted to a single line instead of showing multiple lines. So like here the threshold has been set to 4 states. So if you have selected less than 4 states, show me them as separate lines. But if you selected more than 4 states, now club them all together in one single line and show the trend for all of them. So let's see how we can get that done. first of all, I'll definitely, it's a simple one. It's a straightforward. I need to create a map, if you already know, and I need to create a line chart. Let's and the most of it, the task lies here in the line chart. Let's come here. Now, if you are familiar with the actions in the dashboard actions, the interaction between top sheet and the bottom sheet, which is basically because of the dashboard action which we created. And if you see, it's called filter 2. So every action that we create, it will either be one of these type of actions, either filter action, highlight action, etc., etc. The action which we created is a filter action. So as soon as you create an action, you will be able to see something called this here, the action filter. Just like how you place your dimension and context filters here, the action that you generated will also create a filter. It's called action filter. And just like how you can shift the dimension filters from context to and remove from context, these can also be put into context and removed from context. Now the idea here is we need to set that threshold value, right? After a certain number of let's see how we can do that. It's a simple logic. Let me just show you that. Yeah. Right. So if we see here, what I have as this particular statement: if count distinct of state on a fixed entire database level, if it is less than 5, then give me state. Okay. Now, and I use this to put and I use this field to put in color. Therefore, it will automatically detail out. So let me explain what I mean. First of all, my action, whenever I generate an action, it will be by default as a like this blue color, not in context. Okay. Now if we set that as a context itself, remove from context and expect this thing to work, it will not work. So it will, when I select 1, it will go there. When I select 2, it doesn't matter. It's just clubbing everything. It's not giving me the individual line. Okay, for each state that I selected. So the reason there is because of the order of operations in which this filter and the statement, the calculation that which we created are getting performed. So first, because this is a fixed level calculation, it always gets performed before a dimension filter and after a context filter. And as per the logic, you want this thing to be calculated after your filter has been executed. That is, once you have selected everything, then you need this calculation to be performed. Therefore, what you need to do is you need to basically change that order to shift this action to be performed a little earlier. So what you do is, when you apply this to context, you are pushing this one step earlier to perform before your calculation. So add to context. Now thus first this will be performed. So whatever you have selected, only that data will be going into the for all the calculation purposes. So when you select 1, it will only take into consideration 1 state. And when you do this count distinct of state, it will only give the number of states that you have selected. So if that is less than 5, then it will give me that particular state details. So therefore, when it is less than 5, it will have the details, but if it is greater than 5, as per our condition, it will not hold the state details. And because we put that in color, so that's how we are achieving. Up until 5, we'll get a different lines, but after 5, after reaching 5, so we get single line for all of them together. Hope it's clear. Stop me if you have any question. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. First. Here we have a couple of exercises. Let's look at the exercise on the left. So here we have something called show the difference between actual sales per month over a 4-year period and the average monthly sales using XQ. Here he wants us to use the particular kind of LOD, and so what the question is, for take an average for all across monthly sales for the last 4 years, and take a difference of that average and monthly sales in each of the months. That's the question, and let's see how we can do it. Using fixed expression, we can easily do it, but let's see how we can do it in using the exclude expression. So first of all, I would need my order date, and let me put that at the month level, and my sales, and change that to bar. I have my bar. Now I need to get my so yeah, just so you know, if you remember how we when we discussed including difference between fixed, include, exclude. So exclude and include will always take into account the dimensions that you already put into the view. So we need to basically take into account all the dimensions that were earlier added into the view. Okay, when we are trying to use include and exclude. So let me just yes. So if you see here, this is the calculation. Let me explain here. First, we need to get the sales for each and every month. So for that, I'll use this expression. So for every month of the order date, give me sum of sales. So this will give me a table for every month in the last 4 years. It will give me sum of sales, and that will be one table. And on the top of this table, we are working. So normally, when you write your first LOD, you'll be working on a database table. So with the base table that which you bought into the Tableau. But if you don't want to work on the table, you can basically, this is the power of LODs actually, where you get to create a separate table in Tableau itself, where you don't have to store it and etc. And you can get to work on that. So if you see here, this highlighted expression itself is creating a temporary table for this calculation alone. And on the top of the table, you're working. And why do you want to create the table? Because you want to take an average at this level, not at the data source level. So that's why we created fixed date trunk, and we got this table. It will give me sum of sales for each and every month. And let's say if there are 16 months, for 16 months, this table will have 16 rows. Now my average will be when calculating the average, the denominator will be 16. But if in case you are working on a base table where the row is of each order detail, the average, when you calculate on that, it will mess up, because the denominator takes into account the number of rows. So therefore we created the table for which, based on the average that you want to calculate, and from there you exclude the month and get the average. So yeah, so this is how you do this calculation. And average month, hope this calculation is clear. I will click OK, and that would be my average monthly sales calculation. I'll just put that there. This is my average number constant for everything, and I'll create. All I have to do is I'll have to take a difference. Some sales minus my average. Click enter, you'll get the So now I got the wherever basically the solution for the question that we are looking at. The difference of monthly sales with the average of all the months across last 4 years. Stop me if you have any question. I'll move on to the next question. Yeah. So on the right side we have second exercise. How do the sales over time for each ship mode compared to the average sales across ship modes for that particular time period? This should work regardless of the date granularity, quarter, week, etc. So basically, whenever you drill down, whenever you put date into the view, you'll be able to drill down at whatever the level, quarters or years, months, etc. And whenever you drill down, this calculation should work. As said earlier, this can be done using this task can be done using fixed expression as well. But in fixed, let's see what kind of problem we'll face and how we can achieve this calculation to be immune to the date granularity, basically. And let me quickly recap the question once again. So we need basically the average across all ship modes for a particular time. So 2015 Q2, what is the average for across all the ship modes, and get the sales for all the ship modes, you get the difference from each of the values of ship modes with that average that you calculate. So first task would be to calculate the average. Let's come here. To calculate the first, let's develop the view which we want. Order date, month of order date, and ship mode. Okay, and I have my sales. Okay. Now let's calculate the monthly sales, monthly average. So I can simply, if you see the structure, what I can do is fixed order date and get the average. Fixed order date, it can help us get the situation. But what happens is, whenever you write a fixed expression with date, it will ask you something. You need to specify at what level you want to fix, either at the month level or year level, etc., etc. And that you do it as we did earlier. Date trunk, you specify the date part, either month or etc., and then you fix at that level. But you want this to work at all levels, so you cannot use fixed. So that's straightforward. So we want to use, in order for the calculation to be interactive as per the view, we need to use include or exclude. So this is so what we'll do is, we will first so first thing we will do, this is the calculation, and include shipment and some sales. So what it will do is, for whatever the view which we have, as I said earlier, include and exclude, take into consideration all the dimensions at which we placed. So the dimensions at which you placed are ship mode and month. So on the top of that, it will add ship mode again. So now we have two ship modes onto the table on which my calculation is performing. For include ship mode and get the sum sales. So basically, it will create a table for each and every month. Okay, each and every month, and for every ship mode, it will give me sum of sales. And from that table, I'm excluding ship mode to get the average at the month level. So if you see, let me just create the table. So our calculation, whatever we created, it's generating a table under the hood, something like this. Since we have two ship modes, I won't be able to do that here. So, but assume that we have two columns of ship modes. Okay. Now we are removing ship mode. Let me put this first. Yeah. Now we are removing ship mode, and as I said, we have two ship modes. We are removing one ship mode. So after removing one ship mode level of from the view, we'll be left with this thing. and on the top of this we are taking average. So if we see average since we already left with this, we will take an average for this level. What is the next lowest level of granularity in the present in the table from which my view is generated? So that is this level. So it will basically work at this level, take the average for all this, basically the panes. So that's exactly what we want. For each time period, take an average for across all the ship modes present in that particular time period. So let's go back to our calculation again. So therefore, why we need to include and remove? Because we have only one ship mode. If we remove the ship mode, we will lose the we will lose the information of ship mode, and it will take average across all years, irrespective of considering instead of taking across ship modes. So basically, include ship mode sum sales. It will give us this table. Again we remove it. When removed, we'll take the average, and that will give us the average across all the ship modes for that particular time period. And once we get that, we'll just do the simple calculation, sum sales minus average ship mode sales, to give us the values. So yeah, those are the few exercises for today.